listening to a download from the outdoorstation.co.uk.
Number 314.
We finally worked out between us that it is in fact Friday morning, and we've set out from Derry Lodge after a very dewy night, very still, very moist. All of us had a considerable amount of condensation on the inside and the outside of the tent, so we gave them a good wipe down. It's amazing how much water comes off them actually when you do that. Picked up a kitchen sponge when I was in Blair Athol, and it's been very useful for mopping it down, especially the tents that you put away as one piece, because obviously if you put them away saturated, it is rather unpleasant when you put them back up again. But a very still, calm night. All of us, interestingly, although we've got sleeping bags which are 3-season bags, all said about 4 o'clock-ish it suddenly went cold, and we all awoke really and generally put on extra layers to maintain the comfort value, and then dozed back off to sleep again. But a lovely lazy start, sorting ourselves out, having a bit of breakfast, no wind, very very still, low cloud, sort of the type of weather you'd anticipate it raining, and it's still exactly the same as that now. In fact, the wind, if you can hear it on the microphone, is coming from behind me, and it's just started, and we've been walking now for probably about an hour and a half, 2 hours, having just stopped for a bite, and the cloud above us is actually just starting to move, but it's not going up or down, just see it moving a bit horizontally. So we're heading up to Loch Avon, going via the Hutchinson's Memorial Hut, and I'd anticipate we'll be seeing that in the next half hour. Just started round the bend where the path starts to climb, and it goes from about 500 metres to 930, I think, in about 3.5-4k, but a steady climb for all that, looking at the contours. Conversation we've had this morning has been quite interesting, and it's well, good to hear that other people share the same anticipations and apprehensions before going out for a walk. We're all discussing the fact how much we not panic or worry, but plan and double check and triple check our packs before we come away. Lee has a week of packing, unpacking and double checking everything. Tony seemed to be unpacking and packing his pack 3 or 4 times the actual night he got on the train, and certainly myself, I tend to start thinking about it in great detail a week or so beforehand, getting out the sorted bits that I want to take with me, and then I need to have a good evening of getting out all the dried food packets I've got and the food, and making a shopping list up for the following day of what I think I'm going to need. I've sort of scrimped a bit on lunches this time. Normally I sort of go to the baker's and pick up a pasty and a few sort of rolls to eat for a sort of couple of lunches, but Blair Athol was rather disappointing, and anything that we've all bought from there we notice is virtually at the end of its sell-by date. So I get the feeling the guy in the shop there was clearing off his old stock. In fact, some of the sandwiches he had there were 2 days out of date, which was slightly disconcerting. So Lee bought the only sandwich that had a day to go, and I had a pasty that actually, when I came to eat it, was on its use by date. But there was very little else to choose, so we've ended up buying chocolate bars and whatever else, which is okay, but not quite as fulfilling as a decent sort of carbohydrate meal. Well, snack, you know what I mean. I know a lot of people would probably think I was lucky when it came to packing, for obvious reasons, having the shop and a whole pile of stuff. Well, I've been doing this for so many years now. I've got 6 boxes full of my favourite pieces of kit. And I was saying to the guys, it's ever so difficult because I have favourites which may not necessarily be the lightest, but it's certainly been on a few trips with me and I've enjoyed its performance, albeit perhaps a mug or a stove or a jacket or whatever else. But technology moves on and suppliers come out with new items, and naturally I have to use them in earnest so I can give an honest opinion, which I think people on the whole generally appreciate. I suppose the two items that I've used on this trip which were fresh to me were the new generator smock, RAB generator smock, and the RAB power stretch. And I've got a string to cross, hang on a second. And both have been very comfortable, very warm, and I certainly could have managed with just one of them rather than both of them. But they've been excellent, really. I do like the RAB power stretch top, very clingy, very warm. It's got some lovely thumb loops, which saves me having to put my gloves on and off, which I would be doing at the moment due to the cold wind which is behind me. The generator smock's been certainly warm. I wouldn't say it's been as warm as the my Live Down smock, which is my favourite, but sadly we can't get hold of those at the moment. But not far off, and I've got one of the older generators, and I'd say definitely the pocket design's improved, and there's certainly more Primaloft in there than there has been before. I think there's 100 grams in the body and 60 grams in the arms, and you can certainly notice it, but very, very nice. One little item which has been a bit of fun, which I hope to be using a bit more of, is a little telescope monocle made by Brunton, which is probably a name quite well known to bird watchers. They make a wide range of very, very powerful and high quality optic binoculars and bird watching telescopes, but they've just come out with a very tiny 7 power monoscope and telescope, and it's been just a nice novelty really to have in your pocket to check out the wildlife and the paths and that sort of thing. And it literally only weighs a few grams, but the optics are very, very good, so I hope to be putting that on the website fairly shortly. It's only 20 odd pounds, so you know, good value for money. Excellent. The peaks carried well. Certainly got everything in. It was a tight squeeze, having sort of 3 days worth of food in, but that was probably because I had 2 jackets, as I say, really. If I'd taken one of those out, it would have been a lot easier. What have I got from Montaigne? Montaigne, I've got the long-sleeved Bionic tee. Fantastic, beautiful, just as good as a short-sleeved. It doesn't smell, and I've worn that every single day during the daytime. Then the Terra pants, always a favourite. No need to change the design on it, absolutely brilliant. Certainly when you're wading through the rivers and so on and come out the other side, within moments it appears to be dry. It's certainly dry when I get into the tent at night. I got the Montaigne peaked cap, which is as good as any other lightweight pack. Keeps the rain off the front of your face, and certainly with the hoods that pull tight around your face when it's really cold, it's good to be able to have a peak cap to see what's going on. The Halo jacket, fantastic piece of kit, lovely and light. Although incidentally, Lee's got the new RAB event smock, and that's incredibly light. He's been very pleased with that from a breathability, waterproof point of view. But the hood section, which presumably really is designed so it's capable of taking climbing helmets, the hood section doesn't look as nice as perhaps it could do. But that aside, very impressed with the jacket, and certainly the weight of it's minuscule, lighter than the Halo certainly, but each one's got features that each of us like. What else? The Aviemore pans, of course. I've used the Solo set, which has been a great combination. I've had my ever faithful Overcast folding plate, which they don't make anymore. I think we've got the last few available. That is such a useful piece of plastic, it really is. I tend to fold it up, use it as a bowl to actually put my food into if I'm having mash with a stew or whatever, and have it flat as a chopping board for chopping up sort of the Baby Bell cheese that I tend to buy, and drop that into my meal if I'm having a pasta with a bit of cheese in it. Gas burner's been very efficient. The 100 gas cart lasted, let's say, Saturday through to Tuesday. Then we were at Blair Athol, and then Wednesday until now. So yeah, 2/3 days at a brew in the morning and a meal at night, and that's been fine, but it's on its last legs now. Certainly I'll be borrowing gas from the guys tonight. Anyway, I've got a river to cross now, so I'll catch up a bit later on. Quite a big one. Oh.
Well, Shirley was here not so long back at the Hutchinson's Memorial Hut, and I think she had lunch here with K-Burn. But it is, as she described, a small little brick-built villa with gaff tape round the doors to keep the drafts out, a sleeping platform, I suppose, and a table, and that's about it. But I'm sure it's been a very welcome retreat for many people when the weather hasn't been good. The cloud base has stayed fairly low, and we've made it up here without any rain, really, mist if anything at all. And we're just sitting here having a brew, deciding whether to push on to the loch and camp there, or go over the top of Ben Macdui if the cloud lifts. But I thought I'd take a couple of minutes to continue that comment I was making earlier on about the preparation that goes into trips, and how it made me feel a bit more relieved that everybody goes through the same things, because I thought I was the only one that got very agitated, yes, a good word. Agitated about the preparing and what gear you're going to take and what food and putting things in and taking things out. So Tony and Lee have both agreed to have a few words about their few days process and how many days ahead of a trip they actually start really panicking or thinking or shopping or whatever the case may be. So I'm going to hand over to Lee first of all and see what his timescale is.
I think I'm all the way through the year I'm thinking of different routes I can be doing when the sun starts to shine and it comes round to the TGO Challenge, or sort of the good weather anyway, between sort of spring and autumn. So, but certainly before any trip, a couple of weeks before, I sort of start to think about buying my food, getting the maps prepared, and apparently from what Tracy says, I'm in a world of my own for certainly the last week, and I think she's right.
So is that when you're in that world of your own, are you thinking about what can I leave out, or have I forgotten something, or have I got everything? What sort of thing are you thinking of, do you think?
I don't honestly know really, because I've been doing it, as we all have, for that long that I roughly know what kit I'm going to take. Probably thinking if I've got a new bit of kit, and will that be okay, and or should I take my old stuff? But no, I don't honestly know what sort of zone I'm in, but I'm definitely in a zone.
Preparing yourself for it.
Yes, preparing myself for it, and probably whether it's psychologically or am I fit enough. It's probably easier when there's a few of you, because you're not going to worry about falling over and hurting yourself too much. Somebody can get help. So certainly when I'm on my own, I'd probably take a little bit more care and probably take a bivvy bag with me just in case. But it's probably easier when there's certainly more than yourself.
So practically then, do you have your rucksack sort of packed semi-ready to go, or do you actually take it all out and put it in piles and lay the food out on the table and sort of work it out, or are you a bit looser than that?
I'll lay it all out on the floor.
Yeah.
Or like the food gear, my pans and my food and all that'll be in one little pile. The sleeping gear in another little pile, waterproofs, rucksack, everything in sort of little areas. So,
and do you leave it like that for a few days or a few hours, or is it just the night?
That's the night before. Everything else is packed in drawers in the spare room, out of the way of trays.
Yeah, because if you leave it there for more than a few hours, it gets cleaned away. How about yourself, Tony?
I'm more or less very similar to Lee. You dream about the trip. When you make the decision that you're going to do the trip, then you start dreaming about it, and before you know it, the trip's upon you, you know. So then it's about 2 weeks before I start saying, well, let's get me geared out. So I'll get it out and put it on the bed in the spare bedroom. And then the next week I'm thinking what to take, you know, shall I leave this out, shall I leave that out? And then I start thinking, am I fit enough? And for some reason, you always seem to get an ache somewhere that suddenly comes upon you, that you're thinking an injury, you know, and then you're worried about that, you know, and it's probably just in your mind, you know. Then the week before then, I start becoming a nervous wreck, I could say, is the only word to describe it. To think that I've only got a week to go, you know, Christ, I'm going to miss all my home comforts and, you know, and all this. Do I really want to go on this trip? You know, and then that goes, and then I start serious packing about 3 days before. I'll pack, unpack, pack again. I think I'm not happy with this, you know, and then I'll take everything out, and then at the end of that day I've had enough, I'm fed up, I say, I've got to leave this now because it's doing me head in. So then I'll leave it then, and then the next day I'll have another go at packing, and then I think, I haven't seen my map case. Where's my map case? And then I search the house high and low. And then I remember it's in my day sack when I went on a day's walk, you know.
Yeah.
So eventually you find it, and then you've got that. And then I pack again, and I calm down again then. And then the night before, I think, gonna weigh me pack. So I get the bathroom scales and put it on. I think, oh no, that's too heavy, that is. So I unpack again and look at what I've got. And everything else, you know, I think I can't leave that. Everything's the same. I think I was too bloody late now. I'm just going to have to go with it, and that's it, and be done with it.
What about your food then?
Food, I send away for my food, so, you know.
How far ahead?
That will be plenty of time, you know, a good fortnight before I'll have my food. Or everything, I'm usually quite organised. Everything I'm taking is a fortnight before, you know, unless there's something might be a last minute panic, but usually I'm organised that way. It's just packing, unpacking, leave this, take that. You know, it's a nightmare. You know. So.
Well, it's reassuring to know that I'm not the only one that goes through the same sort of preparation routine. And as you say, you know, you're confident in what you are taking, and you've used it before, and you know it fits. It's just those little tweaks, isn't it? Just reducing a bit of weight here and whatever.
It's fine. When I put the pack on in the bedroom, you think, bloody hell, this is heavy. You know, it's just in your mind, you know. And then, I mean, when you come out and actually you're getting on the train and all that, and you think, oh, that ain't too bad, you know. And then when you actually start to walk, after about an hour with the pack on your back, you think, oh, no, it's fine. Don't know what I was worried about.
So that's, I mean, this is 4 or 5 days for yourself and a week for us. But if it was just a weekend trip, do you have the same sort of apprehensions?
I suppose must do, really, yeah. It's the same process. You need the same gear as you for a weekend, really, as you do for the challenge, apart from obviously not so much food. So, yeah, I think just as much planning goes into it. Definitely. And
talking to the challenge then, what about, because obviously you don't carry all the food for 2 weeks. I mean, I've done it, and it's a heavy lump in your rucksack, certainly. So we all send parcels ahead. Do you ever worry about the parcels either not being there, or where to send it, just in case you change your route as you go along?
Yeah, you always have that worry. It's that worry usually comes in on the day you have to pick the parcel up. So that, you know, you might be picking it up at dinner time. So that morning it's always in the back of your mind. You know, you haven't got the parcel. But then, I mean, on the challenge, you usually go about 3 or 4 days, so you can always buy something, pasta, you know, or noodles or anything, you know. It's not really a disaster. But, you know, you do, it's in the back of your mind, you know.
And, well, that's past 5 or 6 minutes. What do you reckon to the weather, Lee? Do you think it's going to change on us?
I'm not ever so happy with the weather, to be honest. But when we get up to the loch, we'll have to see what it's like.
Make a decision.
But I've got a feeling it's going to stay like this the rest of the day.
Yeah, it's a shame.
There's one question I'd like to ask you, Bob, actually.
Go on then.
Talking of preparation, I'd like to know how long it takes you to amass all the chocolate bars that you've brought on this trip.
Yeah, that was more a survival thing.
Oh,
That was a survival thing because the bakery, the shop at Blair Athol wasn't particularly good, so I couldn't get stacked up in some decent breads and pasties, so I had to buy bars.
Fair comment.
See, another thing I think people find, you always think other people do it better than you, and 9 times out of 10 they don't. It's just having the confidence in what you're doing, really, you know. But it's, as I say, I'm still a nervous wreck when I pack every time I go away. But you know, I'll try to stop worrying about it. See how I get on next year.
There you go then, listeners. You're not on your own if you get very apprehensive about packing your bag before you go away. There's 2 experts and me here full of chocolate bars, and we obviously all share the same sort of worries. Well, another half hour's gone by since our previous recording, and the cloud base has dropped on us, bringing with it some wet, windy weather. We've decided to make the appropriate changes to our plan, so we're going to go up to the loch and then head round to Strathnethy. Nessie or Nethy? Netty. Strathnetty. And that glen, and hopefully find a suitable camping spot in a couple of hours' time, 2 or 3 hours' time, which should then put us in the right sort of place to finish our walk round to Aviemore tomorrow, which is a shame, really, because all of us were looking forward to doing Ben McDooey, but prudence is the better part of valour on one of these occasions, and the weather has certainly proved the point, and we're all Gore-Texed and evented up now, ready for the worst, ready for a proper expedition, real men. So no doubt I'll chat to you probably when we've camped and sorted ourselves out.
With over 1 million listeners worldwide, the Outdoors Station is the leading online audio resource for those into the great outdoors.
Shortly after we left the Memorial Hut, our route changed. We decided to not battle up to Loch Avon and around as we initially intended, or to camp there in fact, although we'd all heard that there was a camping spot there. Visibility had dropped to about 20 metres, cloud had come down, and we decided perhaps discretion was a better part of valour, and the most interesting route we could possibly take would be to forget Ben McDooey for the following day, but head round to the Shelterstone and down to Loch Avon with a view to tackling Cairn Gorm the following day. And that's exactly what we did. We hunted around and around trying to work out which one was Shelterstone. As we dropped down out of the mist, there is just a big arena of large rocks, all of which we were arguing could have been the Shelterstone. But Tony and Lee eventually found it. Lee found it, did he? Yeah, well, there you go. Lee found it. He was determined to find it. He was a man on a mission. And as we left the Shelterstone and followed the stream down to the purest stream in the world, down to Loch Avon itself, the water is so clear and pure. It's fantastic. And there's a beach area, and we settled on camping on the beach area because we'd have to have made the climb and done a little bit more to find a second potential camping spot, and we were all ready to set up camp. And it was actually good timing all round. It was a bit of a blustery night, but it was still doable, and the bank here is capable of taking a couple of tents, and Tony actually slept down on the beach itself, pitched on the beach itself, a little grassy area there. We all had a sort of fairly disturbed night, but it's a reasonable night all the same, wasn't it, Tone?
Yes, yeah. As you say, now and again it was a bit blustery. My tent's held up very well. It was a long night in the tent. You had about 12 hours in darkness. You know, it's interrupted sleep. You know, sleeping for an hour, then waking up. You know,
not the easiest, most conducive of sleep, was it?
No, not when you only sleep regularly about 7 hours. You know, But it was okay.
Yeah, well, we all had a good meal and a good chat, but I mean, it gets that cold, doesn't it? And well, dark at 7 o'clock. There's nothing else to do but get your head down.
Yeah, chill out, listen to a bit of music, and then try and get some sleep around 12 o'clock, and that's it.
And we've all awoken this morning, 6 o'clock, virtually within moments of each other, stared out of the tent, and the cloud base lifted. The sun has slowly started to come up over Loch Avon, and I have to say it is absolutely beautiful, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's just lighting up the end of the loch and the saddle at the far end, and the top of the crest of the rocks around the back of us, where the shelter stone is, going up towards Cairn Gorm. Is now being lit up. It's half lit up at the moment. What time is it? 8:30. Lovely warm glow to the rock face. The sky is blue. Plenty of clouds in the sky, but there's blue sky. And it's the last wild camp for all of us, and we're all trying to remember this moment for weeks to come, I think.
It's the sort of day that you think, I want more.
Yes.
Yeah. Another 3 days, if it was like this, you'd gladly stay, wouldn't you? Or
absolutely.
A week, It's that fantastic now.
Moments to be treasured, eh?
Exactly. Yeah.
Moments to be treasured. And we were all just discussing, saying it's one thing we'd all hate to lose would be our eyesight, because something like this is just magnificent. And if you're listening to this and never tried walking in Scotland, you really should give it a go. Get a guide or some friends that are a bit more experienced to take you out. And there's not many places, not many directions in Scotland that you can't go and get views like this. But it is super, especially when a wild camp.
And even the temperature is warm. It's
it's
not even cold. And we're about 720 metres, and it's warm. It's fantastic.
It's certainly going to be warm when we climb up there, though.
Yeah. No, that's the downside of it. We got that big pull up, so not to worry about it.
But it should be
fine.
Should be a good day, though. Head up towards Cairn Gorm. Obviously, decide what we're going to do when we get round to the top there. But there's the cafe, which we can't work out whether it might be open or closed at the top, and then there's sort of a downhill stretch down to Aviemore.
Well, this is the day that it's the pull of the pub, as we call it.
Yes.
That's going to draw us on. No matter what. No matter even if it starts raining, it's the pub.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah. So no matter how bad a night's sleep we had, we've got something to look forward to tonight, and we've earned it, though. It's a good reward for 3-4 days of good walking.
Yeah, excellent walking. Fantastic. The company's been fantastic. I mean, if you ever happen to meet Bob and Lee, they're really nice people.
But
Very
Tony's
friendly.
the person to speak to.
I'm the bastard. I'm the grumpy old man.
I think between us, we've all managed that this last few days. It's 10 o'clock now, and we've just come up from Loch Avon, which is obviously the correct pronunciation of Loch Avon, which these two guys let me say earlier on this morning. And as they're experienced Scottish people, Scottish walkers, they should have corrected me, but they'd rather let me have this embarrassing moment. Having said that, we are sharing, or have just shared a break in the most glorious weather. Blue sky, just a smattering of clouds, glorious sunshine. We can see the clouds rolling over the top of Ben Macdui and Loch Hutchinson, and we're now going to head up to Cairn Gorm and begin our final descent. But a lovely spot, eh, Lee?
Fantastic spot, isn't it? It's really, couldn't hope for a better finish to a fantastic week.
I mean, truly magnificent. We've been very lucky with the weather. It has had its fair share of wet and dry and windy, and it's as been challenging as Scotland can be, but we seem to be very lucky. We had this on the Cape Wrath, didn't we? That last day on the Cape Wrath was equally glorious. It was
That's right.
a memorable moment to treasure for the next 12 months before, the next few months as you go through winter. So anyway, we're going to head up now to Cairn Gorm and see perhaps if the restaurant's open, and then probably begin our descent, ready for a wild night of dancing and celebrating, so Tony tells me.
That's it. Plenty of beer. Lead Bob astray. Get him in trouble with Rose.
Chips,
Yeah.
More beer.
chocolate for Bob.
It's a beautiful day today. We just made it to the top of Cairn Gorm, and there are several people up here, and one person just happens to be walking past, and I can't believe it's a man from Thermarest.
Yeah, we're
Well,
from
from
Cascade Designs in
yeah.
Seattle.
Yeah, yeah.
Thermarest has been our big product for over 35 years, and
Yeah.
got many other great products for the outdoor market. And was up for a adventure travel conference and decided to get out for a day of walking since the weather was beautiful.
Well, you've certainly picked a beautiful day for it, the most perfect day in the last week, I would say. So what was the conference all about then?
It was the Adventure Travel Trade Association's World Summit, and it brought together 600 delegates from around the world, from 52 different countries. And it's primarily a venue for inbound tour operators, the people in the country that you actually do the trip with, to be able to connect with the tour companies and the travel agencies and whatnot around the world that actually sell the trips. And this allows them to network and to learn about the various products and start making those connections so that people can ultimately take fabulous trips.
Surely the downside of something like that is you must listen to all the people and the trips that they do, and you think, actually, I could feel like a bit of a change.
Oh, I've got a wonderful list of vacations to do.
I bet.
Places to go, and a lot of connections around the world that, great people.
Cascade Designs is predominantly based in Ireland, isn't it? How is business and how is life in Ireland at the moment?
Well, we're actually based in Seattle, and that was where we began with a couple of Boeing engineers that had been laid off back in the day, and they created a product called a Thermarest self-inflating sleeping pad, and then it's grown since then. And then we opened a factory in Ireland to build product for the European market. And that's gone quite well. And obviously now, this day things are kind of tough in Ireland and elsewhere around the world. But in any case, we're continuing to do our part and provide what we can for the economy.
You were just telling me that your history yourself. You started a small company and then got sort of taken over by Cascade. Tell me a bit of history about that.
Well, yeah, Cascade, as I said, Thermarest was the initial product, and quite successful because it was a revolutionary sleeping pad. But as the company's grown, they've done so organically, and then as well by acquisition. One of which was a brand called Platypus, which was a hydration system. Began in Berkeley, California, as literally a garage company. And
Was that just yourself, or yourself and a couple of
well,
guys?
no, I was working at the time for Sierra Designs, and the founder,
tent manufacturers.
yeah, exactly, and the owner who had came up with the concept, approached me, and I went over to work for him, sort of operations, soup to nuts, and so we started up the line, and then it became successful, got recognized, and Cascade Designs came along and scooped us up.
Well, the outdoor life in California, I presume, is quite different from where we are at the moment. Can you sort of give us a bit of a comparison?
Well, California's got a great variety. Everything, from the sea, you've got the coastline to the hills, Marin County, where I was living, where mountain biking was invented. By the Gary Fisher and Tom Ritchie and the like. And then a few hours to the east, you've got the Sierra Nevada mountain range, which is quite rugged. So there's a lot of outdoor variety there. It has gotten a bit busier, and it's several hours to get up to the mountains, but certainly a great place to take off for a weekend or weeks even. Yosemite Valley, for instance, and Tuolumne Meadows are incredible places that you
Well
can't
worth a
find.
visit.
Yeah, well worth a visit, I'd say.
And how do you find this environment?
Oh, this is incredible here too. It's
Does
certainly
it
very
differ
different.
greatly?
Yeah, it's much more open. It's very very open, and the with no trees really, except down lower. But it's certainly a great place to be. And this, and also, for instance, Cascade's up right in Seattle, where it's also quite different. There, it's the weather is actually quite similar to Scotland. It tends to be rainy, and a bit damp and stormy a lot of the time. But we do also have the Cascade Mountains an hour's drive away, which are very rugged, and a great place to test product, for instance.
The perception we have, I suppose, in the UK is that there are very
big companies in America, but there's also quite a good smattering of cottage manufacturers. Small manufacturing bases doing short runs of things. Is that the case? Are we sort of misled by that? There's actually only a few, or is there quite a few people dotted around doing small runs of sort of specialised product? And is it a growing market, a developing market in the States still?
Well, I think there's a lot of innovation, certainly, and small companies popping up, with great new product ideas and so on. And you'll see that when you go to the outdoor shows. And the Salt Lake City Outdoor Retailer Show, for instance, always every year we see a lot of nice concepts and small companies and people taking the initiative, as entrepreneurs to put, hang their neck out there and go and run with a product concept that they really believe in. So it's quite a lot of innovation still going on, despite the fact that there has been a lot of acquisitions and big companies getting bigger, but we still see a lot of the innovation going on.
Is the outdoor market? You've come obviously to Aviemore here for this conference, but do you feel that the market is as buoyant in the UK as it is in the US, or is one definitely much stronger at the moment? Do you feel just generally across the board?
Well, I think the markets are doing well, and typically, we've seen this in downturns where people might cancel their vacation and stay at home. The quote unquote staycationing phenomenon, certainly. But so the outdoor business can thrive in economic downturns and provide people some real value, because they might not be able to do the dream vacation, but they can pick up all the equipment that they need for a reasonable price and still get out and enjoy themselves.
Well, it's been a pleasure to meet you coincidentally on here, as if we just set up the interview perfectly on a perfect day, and I wish you all the best with the rest of your days walking.
Yeah, thank you very much. It's just a beautiful day. Couldn't be better, really.
You're listening to the award-winning UK Business Podcaster of the Year. This is the Outdoor Station.
It's Sunday morning at Cornham Bridge campsite, and it's almost 8 o'clock. The bus leaves at 8:30 to take us into Aviemore and to catch our respective trains. And like all journeys, they have to come to an end at some stage. Yesterday, following our climb over Cairn Gorm, we dropped down to the restaurant and ski centre there, and instantly were surrounded by people and coffees and teas, and it just seemed wrong, having spent a whole week in the reasonable wilderness and probably not seeing more than a dozen people, to suddenly be surrounded again by such social activity. But it was very pleasant to have that cup of coffee and tea and a sandwich, and then make our way down to the base station and catch the bus back here, ready for a night of disreputable splendour and food and enjoyment last night, which we thoroughly enjoyed. So I just want to say thank you to Lee and to Tony for their company, and for Lee particularly for sorting the walk out and a very interesting circular route, which has been some challenging points and some easy points, and just very, very enjoyable camping all round.
Oh, thank you, Bob. Thanks for making it. Being real good company. But yeah, it's been real interesting. As you said, a circular walk, but started with the going over the western side of the Cairn Gorms and then round back across Cairn Gorm itself. Just ended a perfect journey.
Yeah, it was a lovely trip. And yourself, Tony, enjoyed your few days away from work?
Yes, it's been fantastic. From my point of view, it was basically gear testing time, really, and I have to say that everything worked perfect, and I'm pleased with my scarp and my 6 Moons Traveller rucksack. So I've had a happy trip.
Yeah, and it's an enjoyable nice night, wasn't it?
Oh, it was fantastic, and the meals were fantastic. And the beer just kept flowing and flowing.
Well, thanks for listening, guys. Well, hopefully we'll meet again in the near future and enjoy another trip. Cheers now.
Cheers. Thank you very much, Rob.
Thank you.
Tony. Cheers.
Thank you for listening to this podcast. To hear more from our extensive free library, please visit the website at theoutdoorstation.co.uk.
You can now follow The Outdoor Station on Facebook. where we chat about each programme we produce, answer questions and discuss future productions. Why not join us there?
This podcast is produced and hosted by theoutdoorstation.co.uk.